Have you ever dreamed of traveling the world after retirement? Of sipping coffee in a quiet Paris cafe, watching the sun rise over the Grand Canyon, or finally taking that cruise you've talked about for years? And yet, have you also found yourself wondering, is it still a good idea? At 70, 75, or even 80, is travel still something to embrace or something to approach more carefully? In this video, we're going to explore 6 powerful truths about traveling after 70. Not to scare you, but to prepare you. Not to discourage adventure, but to help you navigate it with awareness, wisdom, and care. We'll talk about real challenges that seniors face on the road, from sudden health events and fatigue to financial pitfalls and emotional strain, along with the tools and insights that can make travel safer, simpler, and more fulfilling. Let me tell you a story. 2 summers ago, my father, he's 76, surprised the family with news. He and my mom had booked a 3-week cruise across the Mediterranean. They were thrilled. It was their dream. And at first, it all went beautifully. But halfway through the trip, Dad experienced a dizzy spell that turned into something more serious. It was nothing life-threatening in the end. But the hospital visit, the insurance confusion, the emotional toll, it changed the way he looked at travel. "I wish I had known more before we left," he told me later. "Not so I wouldn't have gone, but so I could have done it differently." That's what this video is about. It's not about fear. It's about wisdom. It's about how to keep seeing the world without risking your peace of mind, your health, or your savings. So if you're over 70 or love someone who is, stay with me. Because what you learn here could make the difference between a stressful journey and a beautiful, safe adventure that leaves you with memories worth keeping. Let's begin. When we think about travel, we often picture the excitement, new places, new foods, the thrill of waking up somewhere unfamiliar. And for many of us, that wanderlust never fades with age. But while the heart may feel young, the body quietly tells a different story. You see, after 70, our bodies become more sensitive. The systems that once bounced back overnight now need more time, more care, and more awareness. Blood pressure can shift unexpectedly. The heart works harder at high altitudes. A long flight isn't just tiring, it can increase the risk of blood clots. Even simple things like dehydration or heat exhaustion, which once meant a headache and a nap, can now send you to the ER. And when you're far from home, in a place where the language is different, where your doctor isn't a phone call away, a minor issue can quickly become a major emergency. Let me share the story of James, a 74-year-old retired engineer from Arizona. He and his wife booked a dream cruise through the Caribbean, an anniversary gift to themselves. Everything was going well until the 4th day when James started experiencing chest pain. The onboard medical staff did their best, but it became clear he needed a hospital. The problem? They were hours from the nearest port. By the time James received proper care, the situation had become far more serious than it needed to be. Thankfully, he recovered, but he later told a friend, "I planned everything except for what could go wrong." It's a powerful reminder. At this stage of life, being spontaneous isn't always safe. Planning isn't just about the destination, it's about the backup plan. So before you pack your bags, talk to your doctor. Get a full health assessment. Carry all your medications, plus extras. And most importantly, make sure you have travel insurance that covers emergency care and medical evacuation, especially if you're traveling internationally. Because no one expects a health crisis. But after 70, we must prepare as if it's possible. That doesn't mean we live in fear. It means we travel with wisdom, with a deep respect for what our bodies need now. But health risks aren't the only silent threat when you travel. There's something else. Something you can't see or feel until it's already in your system. In part 2, we'll explore how travel exposes you to infections and contaminants your immune system may no longer be strong enough to fight, and how to protect yourself without giving up the joy of discovery. Let's continue. When we think of dangers on a trip, we often imagine the obvious: missed flights, lost luggage, a slip on a cobblestone street. But sometimes the greatest risks are the ones we can't even see. As we age, one of the quietest changes inside us is the soft weakening of the immune system. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow drift, barely noticeable, until we find ourselves catching colds more easily, taking longer to recover, feeling drained by infections that once barely touched us. Now imagine stepping into a crowded airport, boarding a packed airplane, or dining in a bustling market halfway around the world. The exposure to new bacteria, viruses, and unfamiliar foods isn't just exciting, it's a real challenge for an older immune system. Take the story of Eleanor, a 77-year-old retired teacher who finally took her dream trip to South America. She was cautious, sticking to bottled water, choosing well-reviewed restaurants. But despite her best efforts, on the second day she developed a severe stomach infection after eating a seemingly harmless salad. For younger travelers, it might have been an uncomfortable afternoon. For Eleanor, it turned into a full week in a foreign hospital, dehydrated, exhausted, and far from home. You see, as beautiful as travel can be, it introduces invisible enemies that the body is simply no longer as equipped to handle. And it's not just food or water. The recycled air on planes, the hundreds of hands touching door handles, elevator buttons, railings, it all creates a perfect storm for viruses and bacteria to spread. For a healthy 30-year-old, that exposure is a nuisance. For a senior, it can mean pneumonia, sepsis, or weeks of recovery that drain not only the body, but also the spirit. So what can you do? Simple, powerful precautions. Always carry hand sanitizer and use it liberally. Wear a mask in crowded airports and planes if you're comfortable. Drink only bottled or filtered water, even for brushing teeth. Stick to well-cooked foods and avoid salads, raw fruits, or street food unless you know they are prepared safely. And talk to your doctor before you travel about any recommended vaccines based on your destination. Preparation doesn't take away the magic of travel. It protects your ability to experience it fully, because every trip should end with memories, not hospital bills or regrets. But infection isn't the only thing quietly stealing your energy while traveling. Even without illness, travel itself can leave you drained in ways you didn't expect, long after the suitcases are unpacked. In part 3, we'll dive into a hidden trap that many seniors fall into, travel fatigue, and why recovery after 70 takes more time, more gentleness, and much more planning than it used to. Let's keep going. There's something almost magical about arriving in a new place. New sounds, new smells, new possibilities. But what we don't often talk about is the invisible weight that travel can place on an aging body. Because after 70, energy becomes more precious. And the way our bodies bounce back from exertion, long flights, early mornings, time zone shifts, it's simply not what it used to be. What once took a night of rest to recover from may now take days. And what used to be a light tiredness can now feel like exhaustion that settles deep into the bones. Let me share the story of Richard, a 75-year-old former architect who had always loved to travel. He and his wife planned a 2-week trip to Europe, visiting museums, taking walking tours, sipping coffee in ancient plazas. It all sounded perfect on paper. But after a 10-hour flight and a sleepless first night adjusting to the time zone, Richard felt completely depleted. By day 3, he was struggling to keep up. His feet ached, his legs felt heavy, and he found himself needing frequent breaks, physically, mentally, emotionally. He told me later, the trip was beautiful, but I spent most of it trying to catch my breath. That kind of fatigue doesn't just slow you down, it makes you more vulnerable to illness, to falls, to poor decision-making. It takes the joy out of travel and replaces it with survival. And here's what many people don't realize. Fatigue for seniors is often cumulative. It builds slowly, day after day, until the body quietly says, that's enough. So how do you honor your limits without giving up the adventure? Plan shorter travel days. Don't try to pack everything in. Build in recovery time. 1 day of activity, 1 day of rest. Avoid tight itineraries that require rushing from place to place. Stay hydrated. Dehydration is one of the biggest hidden causes of fatigue. And remember, you don't have to see everything, just enough, because the best trips aren't about how much you see, they're about how fully you experience each moment. And you can't fully experience anything when your body is begging for rest. But fatigue isn't just tiring, it's dangerous, especially when it affects balance and reaction time. And when you're walking through unfamiliar streets, navigating uneven steps, or slippery hotel lobbies, that's when the real danger begins. In part 4, we'll talk about one of the most life-altering risks seniors face while traveling, falls and injuries, and why one wrong step in the wrong place can change everything. Let's move gently forward. When we think of danger, we often imagine big things: a major accident, a sudden illness, a dramatic emergency. But sometimes it's the smallest moment, a single step, a loose tile, a dim hallway, that changes everything. As we age, our balance becomes more fragile, our reflexes slower, and our bones more vulnerable. A stumble that once meant a bruise or a laugh now carries the risk of fractures, surgeries, and months of recovery. And while we may move confidently through our own homes, where every surface and corner is familiar, travel takes us far from that safety. Suddenly, we're navigating slippery cruise ship decks, uneven cobblestone streets, hotel bathtubs without handrails. That's exactly what happened to Linda, a vibrant 78-year-old woman who had always dreamed of visiting Italy. She was healthy, active, and walked daily back home. But on her second evening in Rome, as she stepped off a curb in a dimly lit alley, her foot caught on a raised stone. She fell hard and fractured her hip. The nearest hospital was a maze of language barriers and wait times. She underwent surgery there, then spent weeks recovering after returning home. The hardest part, she said, was that it all happened in 2 seconds. I didn't even feel unsteady until I was already falling. It's a sobering reminder. When you're far from home, everything becomes more complicated. Even basic medical care may be delayed, unfamiliar, or difficult to access. And the emotional toll, fear, helplessness, disruption of plans, can linger far beyond the physical healing. So what can you do to stay safe? Choose destinations with good infrastructure and accessibility. Wear supportive, slip-resistant shoes, even if they aren't fashionable. Use walking aids like a cane or trekking poles if needed. No shame, just smart. Avoid rushing. Give yourself time to move carefully and confidently. And listen to your body. If it's tired, slow down. The world can wait. Because when you're traveling after 70, stability is not just physical, it's peace of mind. But not all falls are literal. Some are financial, the kind that catch you off guard when a plan goes wrong, a flight is canceled, or a stranger takes advantage of your trust. In part 5, we'll explore a different kind of risk, the financial traps that many seniors fall into when traveling, and how to protect your money as carefully as you protect your health. Let's continue with care. There's a certain kind of joy that comes with booking a trip. You click confirm, and suddenly there's something to look forward to, something exciting on the horizon. But for seniors, that excitement can sometimes hide financial risks that go far beyond the price of a plane ticket. Because after 70, travel doesn't just come with health considerations. It comes with fine print, unexpected fees, and sadly, people who are ready to take advantage. Let me share the story of George, a 76-year-old retired accountant. He was careful with his money, a planner by nature. He spent months researching the perfect tropical getaway, a quiet island, all-inclusive, ocean view. The pictures looked beautiful. The price seemed fair. He paid in full. But when George arrived at his destination, the hotel didn't exist. The listing had been fake. The company had vanished. And George found himself in a foreign country, standing in the heat with 2 suitcases, nowhere to stay, and no one to call. He ended up finding a last-minute room nearby. Twice the price, not what he had imagined. But the worst part wasn't the lost money. It was the sense of betrayal, the feeling of being taken advantage of at a time in life when he had hoped to relax, not worry. Unfortunately, George's story isn't rare. Scams, fake bookings, overcharges, and non-refundable deposits are just the beginning. For many seniors, the bigger trap is assuming that regular insurance will cover everything. It often doesn't. Most Medicare plans don't include international coverage. Emergency evacuations, like airlifting to the nearest hospital, can cost tens of thousands of dollars out of pocket. And trip cancellations, due to illness, injury, or family emergencies, are rarely refundable unless you've purchased specific travel insurance. A single unexpected incident can turn a carefully budgeted vacation into a financial disaster. So how can you protect yourself? Only book with trusted, well-reviewed travel companies. Be cautious of deals that seem too good to be true. They often are. Purchase comprehensive travel insurance that includes medical coverage, cancellations, and emergency evacuation. Carry a backup credit card and secure copies of all important documents. And never ever share your financial information with strangers or anyone who pressures you on the spot. Because in this chapter of life, peace of mind is part of the journey. And every dollar saved through smart planning means more freedom to enjoy the moments that matter. So now we've talked about the body, the immune system, energy, safety, and money. But before we close, there's one final truth to explore. Perhaps the most important of all. What if the best kind of travel isn't far away but close to home? What if joy doesn't have to come from distance, but from alignment with your season of life? In part 6, we'll look at how you can still enjoy travel, just on your terms. Simpler, slower, safer, and just as meaningful. Let's finish this journey together. Maybe after hearing all this, you're feeling a little torn. You still want to travel, but now you see the risks more clearly. And that's a good thing, because wisdom doesn't say never go. It says go differently, go gently, go wisely. The truth is, travel after 70 doesn't have to be a thing of the past. It just has to look a little different than it did when you were 40, or even 60. Instead of exhausting international flights, maybe it's a weekend trip to a nearby town you've never explored. Instead of a back-to-back city tour across Europe, maybe it's a slow, scenic train ride through the countryside. Instead of long days on your feet, maybe it's a river cruise where you can sit comfortably, enjoy beautiful views, and stop only when you feel like it. And for some, the most meaningful journeys might not involve a suitcase at all. A walk through a garden you've never visited, a cooking class that reminds you of your childhood, a visit to a grandchild's school recital, a journey inward, or a quiet retreat into nature just a short drive away. Because here's the truth. Travel is not about distance. It's about connection, curiosity, wonder. And those things are not limited by miles or airports. Let me tell you about Claire, an 82-year-old widow who used to travel the world with her husband. After he passed, she stopped going anywhere. It just didn't feel right. But one day her daughter invited her on a 3-day trip to a quiet coastal town, just 2 hours away. No passport, no crowds, just the sound of the waves, fresh seafood, a warm sweater, and her daughter's hand. Claire came back glowing. "I didn't think I needed to go far," she said. "I just needed to feel like I was somewhere new, somewhere alive." So if you still have the itch to explore, listen to it, but also listen to your body, listen to your heart, and choose a kind of travel that fits your rhythm now, not the one from decades ago. Because joyful retirement isn't about slowing down. It's about living in step with yourself and choosing experiences that nourish, not exhaust, you. Thank you for staying with me through this journey. If this video helped you see travel in a new light or helped you feel more prepared, I'd love to hear from you. Share your story, your concerns, or even your favorite travel memory in the comments below. And if you haven't already, please subscribe and hit the bell so you won't miss future videos like this on wellness, aging, and how to live wisely through every season of life. Until next time, travel softly and stay safe.